Warning, is about to get both nostalgic and cringy. Hello and welcome to more weekly homework goodness. We are going to look at what I call double time rock. It's essentially an insanely fast beat, but instead of it being 250 BPM, it would be 125 BPM. Let's show you what I mean. For starters, I'll show you the general gist of why it's called double time rock. Now, back in my second video in the series, I touched upon the 8th note/16th note feel, which for majority of pop songs was the beat of choice. It essentially relied on this beat. I bring this up because a lot of beats I talked about there are essentially the same here. We have the kick on beat 1 and the snare on 2 and 4, followed by some magical parts in the middle. What makes it double time comes from the fact that this is played at an extremely fast tempo. I'm talking like beyond 200 BPM into the 250 range. The interesting part about this though is that we don't count it as 250 BPM, we count it as 125 BPM. Not only because it's easier, but because it's such a fast tempo. In standard music making, we usually count it as beats of 4 within 1 bar. However, since it's fast, we divide the 4 into 8 groupings, so we count it as 1 bar due to the rapid hi-hat and kick patterns. This kind of rock is associated with that so-called teenage era, the early 2000s pop-punk sound. These kinds of kick patterns are everywhere, even in the most popular of tracks/albums. Fenix TX and Rufio are good audio examples how even Sonic the Hedgehog uses this pattern. I can't play it for you obviously, unless you want this to be removed, but examples are in the description if you're interested. The first beat is written at 132 BPM or 264 BPM if you were to count it as 4. The hi-hats are playing on stop 16th notes for extreme intensity. The next beat uses open hats instead, all playing 8th notes. It's mostly used in the chorus sections for that impact. Now you don't have to use the same off-beat kicks like in this. You can also use the double note kick, also explained in the second video. Remember, this is all written at 132 BPM, but it's felt at a much faster tempo. Same would apply for closed hats. Honestly, for the main beats, that's it. I mean, I've still to talk about fills, but as a whole, these kinds of beats are too complicated, and usually it relies mostly on its speed. Also note that some of these beats are quite intense, so it ends up more in the metal genre and the rock and punk genres. I will cover metal in another video. Time for fills. The first one starts with the usual, but in the second half, we have a 16th note 12. I only used 3 of the 8 groupings to make the fill, since the 5th one is a kick. It makes for a smoother finish. Or in some tracks, you can play non-stop 16th note snares as a fill, or what we would call a roll. A lot of these kinds of beats will also have a crash cymbal, usually to mark the end of one drum section and into another. In this case, it's accenting the very first beat. Maybe, if you want, you could try have the crash cymbal accent the snare in our main pattern. This next fill is also very common and a really good way to keep you interested. It has the same pattern we've been discussing, but with a rather offbeat fill. The snares are on the offbeats, as well as the kick, and it is doubled with a crash, which almost feels like it's going out of the beat. Think of it as snare into kick, back into snare. Same deal here, but this fill explores more double note kick action. Interesting to note is that it comes a little earlier than normal, even if it's the same effect. This next fill is very aggressive and works more as a build-up. It's simply 8th note snares and crashes, but with the kick in the offbeats. So it's actually snares first, rather than kick first. It's not uncommon for you to start slowing, and then to build the snares up, much in the same way Ed would. We are now going to finish up on tom fills, an essential part of rock music making. Now, tom fills can have a lot of possibilities, but I opted for a more basic approach, since a lot of these tracks don't usually go for very aggressive tom fills anyways. This one uses 16th notes towards the end, spanning out to 3 subdivisions, within countings of 8. Like I said in my 8th notes video previously, we have 3 tones, each descending in pitch. You can always return to it for more info or ideas. I've duplicated this fill, but made it into 34th notes, rather than 16th notes. Still at the end of the bar. And that was all the drums. I hope you learned something. Time to put it into practice. Your task is to make a track using this beat. As always, it's up to you to make it your own, as long as the main foundations are intact. Remember, although it's a fast beat, like really fast, you really only feel it at around 120-130 BPM. So it's basically having the tempo, but not losing the speed. Anyways, good luck. I'm looking forward to your ideas.